Next, I picked up an itchy eyeball. I am not a happy person. I'm always angry. If this is the first video you're seeing on my channel, I'm always like this. Hello guys. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my June wrap up. I read quite a few books and quite a few of them I don't physically own, so we are going to go through. I have a little cheat sheet on the ground, so if you see me looking down, that is why. And I think we're just going to get straight into it. So the first book I read this month was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I'm just going to show you my immediate reaction after I finish reading this book. Guys, I am not okay. So, as you can tell, I loved it. I was quite emotional after finishing it. If you guys don't know, this is just a retelling of Achilles and Patroclus from the time that they first meet as kids and how they eventually grow up together and end up participating in the Trojan War. I loved this. I know a lot of people that didn't like this book said that it gave them like fanfiction vibes, and I ask you, what is wrong with that? I gave this book 5 stars. It's definitely one of my favorite books of the month, so I love it, and I love this edition. I'm so glad I finally got around to reading The Song of Achilles because it has been on my TBR since I was in high school, and that was over 10 years ago. So, moving on, after that I did my spinny wheel. If you guys don't know about it, every month I put in my immediate TBR books I really want to get to in the month into a little spinny wheel, and then I spin the wheel if I can't decide what to read next, and the wheel tells me. The spinny wheel decided that Fruit of the Dead by Rachel Lyne was going to be my next read, which is kind of ironical because it's also a Greek mythology retelling. This is a Persephone Hades retelling set in modern day. That's a little bit different. It starts with Corey, who is freshly 18, not scared, but she's been a camp counselor all summer and she doesn't really want to go back home to her overbearing mother in New York City. So when the father of one of her kids at the camp offers her a nannying job over the summer, she says yes. His name is Rollo. He's middle-aged, he's divorced, he has 2 kids, and he's in the pharmaceutical industry, so he definitely partakes in some of the drugs he is trying to sell. And Corey finds herself swept into his charm. She's both fascinated and repulsed by him because he is quite an old man. And this book wasn't amazing by any means, but it was definitely a very summer read. So I enjoyed this. It wasn't a new favorite, but it was a good book. I would say give it a shot if you're interested, but it's not like a must read if you're into Greek mythology. Next, I picked up The Hardest Fall by Ella Mays. Unfortunately, this is my least favorite Ella Mays that I've read so far. This follows these 2 people. They keep running into each other year after year at college and eventually end up having to live together. It's a whole situation I don't want to get into, but as they live together, they become friends, and then they begin flirting, and then they eventually want to progress to more, but certain other factors are keeping them away from each other. And this was fine. It was a very fine romance. I think I might have given it 4 stars on Goodreads. It was closer to a 3.5. It was a fine book. But compared to the 2 other Ella Mays books I have read and loved, this book just kind of wasn't it. I am almost considering unhauling it. But I don't know if it was bad enough to unhaul. It's so inconsequential, you know? Is that the right word? It's not adding anything to my life. I might unhaul it. We'll see. Next, this is a book.
I'm Captain Obvious.
That I weirdly enjoyed. It was strange. This is Swana in Love. We are following I think she's 14. She's young. She's 14. A 14-year-old girl named Swana. Swana's mum is definitely unreliable, definitely mentally ill, and she picks up Swana and her younger brother from their summer camps. And she says, this is my new boyfriend, and we've decided that we're going to live on an artist's commune. Now, this artist's commune doesn't allow children, so Swana and her younger brother are forced to live in the back of a truck, like a ute. And they have to sneak into the houses to use the toilet. And Swana's kind of done with this. So at a family outing, she kind of meanders away from her family and meets this older guy named Dennis. Now, Dennis is the father of 2. He is married. He's a doctor, and he's also very attracted to Swana. Thus begins a pedophilic relationship between an older guy and a 14-year-old girl. And it's so bizarre because this was from Swana's point of view. And because she kind of is on the chase. She's the one who seduces Dennis. Not that it justifies anything, but it was very interesting because she is a 14-year-old girl who thinks that she's the predator, who thinks that she's trapped this guy into a relationship with her. And then you kind of take a step back after the book and you're like, that is not correct.
That is not correct.
It was interesting. I don't know how to explain this book in a way that's going to really explain it, other than I was intrigued. Like, I read the entire way through very intrigued, like, what the fuck is going to happen next. I did get a little bit sad at the end, but I think maybe it was supposed to, so I really enjoyed it. Then the spinny wheel decided I was going to read Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. I enjoyed this book. We follow a married couple. We follow Abby and her husband Ralph. They live with Ralph's mother until she kills herself one night. And there's also almost a bit of relief that comes over Abby and Ralph because she's been very difficult to live with. However, Ralph sees her ghost in the basement. And seeing his mother's ghost in the basement puts him into a really deep, bizarre depression. And Abby is worried she's going to lose her husband to his dead mother. It was an interesting book. It had funny moments that I chuckled at. I just don't know if I'd recommend it. I am going to have to make some calls this month, because when I finish a book, part of me is just happy that I've like finished another book. Like, yay, I did it. I accomplished the thing. I think that part of my brain maybe overrides the other part that thinks, am I ever going to reread this and do I need it on my shelves? I don't think I do. I think the answer is probably no for this book. But we'll see how we go. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't made any decisions yet. The next book I read is called I Want to Die, But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. This is a book that I borrowed from the library, so I borrowed the audiobook. We follow, and it is non-fiction. It is basically this woman's therapy sessions. She started going to a therapist, she recorded the sessions, she transcribed the sessions, and now it's a book. And I hate ever really talking shit about non-fiction because it's someone's real life experiences and feelings for the most part. This book was not it. This book was, I mean, props to the author for publishing your therapy sessions. Like, that's a pretty brave move. That's ballsy. You're putting your vulnerability out there for literally everyone on the planet to read. Like, props to her. However, in doing so, I think she's very unlikable. I think, based on how obviously brutally honest you want to be at a therapist, but just how selfish and how callous and how she infantilized herself. It was just almost unbearable to read. It was such a short book, but I probably got like halfway through and just I didn't know why I was still reading it, other than the fact that I'd already started. I may as well finish. I did not enjoy this book. I'm so glad I didn't pay for this book, because at one point in time I was going to purchase this book physically. I'm so glad I didn't, because it would have been an immediate unhaul. It just, I don't know what to say, and I don't know why there's a sequel. I don't understand why an organic conversation that's transcribed got a book deal. I'm just calling it like I see it. I don't understand. So I really didn't enjoy that book at all. Next, I read another book that I borrowed from the library. It was called Rejection. Bing. It is 6 or 7 short stories that allegedly make up a novel. No. These short stories some were really interesting, but the ones that I didn't like, I despised. This, obviously, as you would assume on the title, this collection follows people being rejected, different ways that they've been rejected and how they deal with that rejection. So you've got some people that they get rejected and they go run and tell the internet and look for sympathy. You've got someone who's rejected and then holds onto the anger and resentment of being rejected for years to come. You've got people that decide that they are going to get revenge. It was interesting. It was an interesting collection. But this was another book that I really wanted to purchase because a lot of people had recommended it. And then I read it and I was like, thank fuck I saved my money, because I didn't enjoy it as a whole enough to justify purchasing it. I also hated the last short story. Maybe that's intriguing to you. It was not to me. So I'm very glad I did not pay money for this book. Next, I read Big Swiss. Did I like Big Swiss? I liked this book. This book just follows 2 messy women in a messy relationship and I loved it. We're following our main character, whose name is Greta. Greta is a transcriptionist. So she gets recordings of different therapy sessions, sex therapy sessions from her employer, listens to them, transcribes them, sends them back to him. But there is one of his patients that she nicknames Big Swiss. She is very, very intrigued by. She's very attracted to Big Swiss's story and her voice, and then happens to run into Big Swiss one day at the dog park, and they begin a relationship. And it was interesting, and it was funny, and it was sad. And like by the end, I was like, Greta, you poor sweet child. She is so, like, she's had Greta's backstory and even Swiss's backstory were both heartbreaking, but by the end I was like, Greta, you small precious woman who is older than me, but you precious sweet child, I understand. So I really enjoyed Big Swiss, and I'm glad that I enjoyed it, because if I had to unhaul that cover, it might have killed me. Okay, moving swiftly along, because this is taking too long. I read the newest release by B.K. Borison, First Time Caller. I didn't love this book. I'm so sad. The Lovelight Farm series, all 4 of those books, I really enjoyed. There was one of them, I think it was In the Weeds, that I was like, it was fine, I could take it or leave it. But for the most part, the Lovelight Farms books were next level. This book just missed the mark, and I don't know what it is. I just don't think I believe the chemistry between the characters. We follow this guy. He is a radio host for like a late night love show in Seattle. Then we follow this woman. Her daughter calls the radio station saying, my mum is really lonely, she hasn't been on a date in ages, can you please help my mum find love? So eventually she comes to the radio station, and they both film a show where they're trying to find love for her. Obviously they fall in love with each other. It's a romance book, doy, but the characters just, first of all, didn't buy the chemistry. It just, like, even when they were flirting with each other, I was like, this just doesn't seem right. But that aside, the only thing standing in these characters' ways was their own brains, which is fine. There are some books where that is the biggest problem, that the barrier the characters have to overcome is literally their own minds. I get that. But, you know, I also prefer a book where there's an actual reason that the main characters can't be together. This was, like, honestly a 3.5. This is the lowest I've ever rated a B.K. Borison book. I don't know if I'm going to continue with this series. It just wasn't my vibe, and I'm just so sad because, like, this cover is fucking adorable. It's so pretty. I just didn't love it, and it was really sad and disappointing. But after First Time Caller, I picked up A Certain Hunger by Chelsea Summers. I don't know how many times I can possibly say this on this channel, but I prefer the US cover. I really enjoyed this book. This book starts with a woman whose name is Dorothy, and Dorothy's like, yeah, that's how they caught me for that murder. So we're like, oh, okay, so she's a killer. She's a killer who's in prison. And she tells us her entire life, her experiences, especially with food, and how she became a food critique, and how eventually she starts killing off all the men that she loves and eating parts of their body. This was such a fun book. This book, despite the fact that it is about some mild cannibalism, this book made me so fucking hungry. This book made me hungry for food that I objectively do not like. The way that Chelsea G. Summers describes seafood, I don't like seafood. I don't like fish, I don't like oysters, but the way that she described them, I was like, that sounds fucking delicious. This book just made me hungry. It is a horror. There is cannibalism, there is murder, but do not read this book if you are hungry. Because it made me just want to go to a fucking restaurant and order the most expensive things on the menu. So I really enjoyed this book. It's so hard because I'm like on a health kick journey, right? Like I've been calorie counting and exercising and drinking more water and all that healthy shit, and I've been losing weight. And then I read that book and I was like, why do I even want to lose weight? Like, let's go get a fucking big steak. So yeah. Anyway, next I read a trilogy of books. So it is collectively known as the Hades Trials, but within it we have got The Power of Hades, The Passion of Hades, and The Promise of Hades. These 3 books follow a woman named Persephone who's at work one day when she gets basically kidnapped by Zeus. Zeus dumps her in the underworld, and as soon as Persephone is found in the underworld, she's told, you're Hades' wife. You and Hades used to be married. You're his ex-wife. Persephone is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Basically, long story short, she was Hades' wife. She is like the OG, like Persephone from mythology. But her memory was wiped. She was sent back to Earth. She has no idea who Hades is and what the underworld is, but Zeus has dumped her in the underworld, so she needs to compete in the Hades Trials. The person who survives and wins the Hades Trials will win Hades' hand in marriage. I loved this book. It was fun. It was without being shady, this was like Percy Jackson for adults. You know, like most of it is based on mythology, but there are a lot of liberties taken with like characters that are missing, the history. Like, it was really fun. I have got 2 other books in this series. I've got the Poseidon Trials and the Ares Trials, so I will read both of them eventually because I really did enjoy this. But this is just like some lighthearted fun, you know, like good times. I just enjoyed it. It was just a fun time. It's not a new favorite. It's not like the best written book in the entire world, but it was just fun. So I really enjoyed them. Next, I read Sky Daddy by Kate Folk. Do you want to, yeah, look at that cover. Like, what does that look like to you guys? Because I purchased this book, I received this book, I opened this book, I looked at it and I was like, okay, that's fine. Took this book into the lounge room with the rest of my family, put it on the table, looked at it and I went, oh, for fuck's sake. It is quite a phallic looking image. Sky Daddy follows a woman named Linda, and Linda is sexually attracted to planes. And Linda, her greatest wish in life is for a plane to choose to marry her. And the way she'll know that a plane has chosen to marry her is by the plane crashing and burning with her inside. And that's what she strives for. But unfortunately, she lives in a world where being sexually attracted and basically in love with inanimate objects isn't widely accepted. So she tries to keep her passions on a down low, but she is starting to become really close friends with a co-worker, and she starts like kind of hooking up with a superior in her company, and she's got a lot of stuff happening. All she wants is to fucking die in a plane crash. And I really had fun with this book. It was funny, it was sad, it was just very heartfelt, which doesn't sound like it should be a thing, but yeah, this book was just strange, happy vibes. So I liked it. I'm so glad I liked it because I had really high hopes for Kate Folk's debut novel. I've only ever read her short stories, and I'm glad that I enjoyed this one. Next, I reread my favoritist classic in the world, 1984. I am seeing the stage production of 1984 on Saturday with my mom. So in a couple of days' time, we're going to go see the production, and I was like, well, I need to reread the book because I haven't read the book for 5 years, literally since lockdown. So if you guys don't know what 1984 is about, I'm judging you a little bit. Not too much, but like I'm judging you a little bit. This is a dystopian book that was written, I think it was written in the 40s, possibly just after the war. Yes, it was written in 1949 about what George Orwell thought our society could potentially be by the year 1984. Obviously, it took us a bit longer as a society to get there, but like we're kind of getting there now. We follow our main character, Winston. Winston lives in this dystopian society where people are constantly monitored and watched, and there is constant surveillance, and there is no privacy, and you can be arrested for something as small as saying something bad about the government in your sleep. Like if you sleep talk and you say something in your sleep like, oh, I don't like the government, yeah, you can get arrested and killed for that. So yeah, there are a lot of punishable crimes in this society. The biggest thing that I think came out of this book that most people would be familiar with is the concept of Big Brother. Obviously it's a TV show, but before it was a TV show, Big Brother is the figurehead of the government in this. There are obviously constant cameras. There are these things called telescreens where it looks like a television, but as you're watching something, there is a camera in the television that also watches you, and these telescreens constantly remind you, Big Brother is always watching, Big Brother is watching. So Big Brother isn't a person, but is the figurehead for this political party that's in charge. And this book is just, it hurts to read. You go through a lot of emotions in this book. I think it's very accessible if you don't really like reading classics because of the language. I think that this is language that most people will be fine with, and you just follow Winston as he kind of figures out his true feelings on the party, on Big Brother, on his society, as he tries to find out more about the past and what's actually true and what the government has just reported to be true. He meets a woman that has similar views to him, and it's just, by the end, one of the most fucking depressing books you'll ever read. Like, actually depressing. So I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. Next, I picked up Always Only You by Chloe Lees. I'm just gonna be honest, guys, I fucking hate the titles in the Bergman Brothers series because they are all so similar. Only When It's Us, Always Only You, Ever After Always, With You Forever, Everything for You, If Only You, Only and Forever. Why are all the titles so similar? It does my fucking head in. Anyway, Anyway, in this book, we are following Ren, who is the second or third oldest Bergman brother, and Frankie. Now, Ren plays hockey. Frankie is the hockey team's social media manager. He's been into her for years. She's completely oblivious to his feelings. In this book, we have got some autism, spectrum disorder representation. We also have Frankie using a cane as she has some form of arthritis. I don't remember what it's called. So we basically are following Ren pining after Frankie. Frankie not really having any idea. One of the ways that she experiences autism spectrum disorder is that she doesn't really pick up on hints very well, and she doesn't always know if someone's joking or being serious. Like, she's just not great at picking up on cues like that. But eventually, good old Ren, he shoots his shot, and I loved these characters. I personally couldn't relate to Frankie as far as being autistic, but just her general vibes, I fully understood. And I really love this book, so I'm going to continue with the Bergman Brothers series, even if the titles are fucking stupid. And even though I have the ugly covers, I will continue reading these books, okay? Next, I listened to At Dark I Become Loathsome by Eric LaRocca. This was a waste of my time. If I heard the sentence, "At dark I become loathsome," one more fucking time in this book, I was going to throw my phone at the fucking wall. This sentence is repeated probably like 3 or 4 times per chapter. Now, this isn't a long book, but it's just, and I get it, it's like this character's mantra. Like, this man constantly thinks it. We are following a guy, a very unlikable, mentally unstable guy. His wife died of cancer. Shortly after his wife died of cancer, his son got kidnapped. Now he's like a husk of a man, and all he does in his existence, all that we see him do, is bury people alive, let them back out after half an hour to like give them a rebirthing experience. These people pay for it, they've consented to it, but that is all he does. Until one guy messages him and is like, "Hey, I heard that you can like rebirth me. I need help." And the plot kind of picks up from there. I actually preferred, there were 2 stories within the story that I enjoyed. One that is being like typed in a chat. One of them is a character reminiscing about a story he heard. Those 2 stories were very interesting to me. The actual plot of At Dark I Become Loathsome, not interesting at all to me. The end was unsatisfying. I did not like this book. I don't think Eric LaRocca is the author for me. Moving swiftly fucking along, I picked up The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston because I own 4 of her romances and I hadn't read any of them. In this book, we are following Florence Day. She is a ghostwriter. She has a new editor named Benji, and she kind of doesn't believe in romance anymore. But Benji doesn't believe in giving extensions on deadlines. So while they're both like kind of attracted to each other, they do not like each other. And very quickly, something tragic happens in Florence's family. She has to go back to her family home, and she gets to her family's funeral home that they own, that they operate. And there's a knock at the door, and she opens the door, and it is dear Benji's ghost. And Florence, who is not new to seeing ghosts, but is definitely new to seeing Benji's ghost, is kind of like, what are you doing here? I loved this couple. I loved this story. I loved that it was predominantly about grief and death and moving on and how to celebrate someone's life instead of mourn their life. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I had some fears reading this book, but luckily they were unwarranted. I would highly recommend Miss Ashley Poston, based on that book anyway. Then I decided to give Crying in H Mart another shot. I tried reading this book last month, ended up doing a soft DNF. This month I had just read The Dead Romantics, it's all about death. So I decided that reading a memoir about a woman dealing with her mother's death was probably like similar vibes, you know, keeping with the theme. So I decided to give this one a shot. While I enjoyed it significantly more the second time around, it still just wasn't the book for me. So this one I think I will unhaul, like properly this time. It's just, I don't know who this author is. Like Michelle, what's her name? Zorna? I know she's in a band. I listened to some of her music, not really my vibe, but I didn't know anything about her going into this, so I didn't feel much, to be honest, which is kind of sad. Look, it sucked. Her mum died, it sucked. She relied on her mum for a lot of things. They were like complete opposites, but also soulmates. And I get how, like, I can only imagine how difficult going through something like that would be. but I don't need this book on my shelves, and I'm probably never going to revisit it, so it can go. The next book I read was literally just to get an achievement on Goodreads, and it is called The Corruption of Hollis Brown by Kay Ingram. I have read Kay Ingram before. Love Kay Ingram's writing style. Most of their books are told in like really short chapters, like vignettes, so love that. I love this book. I mean, I was probably 50% of the way through this book when I jumped online and ordered a copy for myself because I love it. It is a YA. We follow a boy named Hollis Brown. I think he's 17. He lives in a very small town where he knows he's never going to leave this town. He knows he was born in this town. He's going to die in this town. And he kind of instigates fights with people just to sort of feel something, I guess. And one day he's walking along and he sees like another 17-year-old boy standing there who looks cold and hungry. So he offers this boy food and shelter, and they shake hands, and that boy's spirit goes into Hollis's body. This spirit slash ghost's name is Walt, and Walt has been around for a real long time, and this is kind of his thing. He inhabits people's bodies, helps them out in life in some way or another, whether it's like helping them get the job they want or helping them get the partner they want. He jumps into people's bodies and he helps them. And when Hollis offered food and shelter, Walt took that quite literally. So we follow these two boys inhabiting Hollis's body. And it's a romance. And it sounds bizarre. Like, it doesn't sound like it should work, but it does. It did. I love this book. I will guard it with my little baby heart. So that is currently on its way to me. I then read Bat Eater by Kylie Lee Baker. This book follows a woman named Cora, who's living in New York City at like the peak of the pandemic, like the point where most people were absolutely paranoid, scared, frantic, stockpiling food and toilet paper, didn't know what was going to happen within the next week, the next year, the next whatever. So Cora, who is half Chinese, and her half sister, who is full Chinese, are at a subway, and they're just sitting there talking, and a white guy walks towards them muttering "Bat Eater," pushes Cora's sister onto the train tracks, and her sister ends up getting hit by a train. Months later, we are following Cora, who is now working as a crime scene cleaner. And Cora and her co-workers have noticed that a lot of the crime scenes they're cleaning up are the murders of East Asian women. And there is usually a bat, dead or alive, somewhere within the crime scene. So her and her co-workers suspect a serial killer. Meanwhile, in her personal life, Cora has got her sister's ghost literally just hanging around her, and she needs to figure out a way to get rid of her sister's ghost because ghosts aren't supposed to be here with people. This book was really, really well done. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. As a horror, it was really well done. As a book about grief and not being able to move on after a loved one's death, it was really strong. And as a snapshot of the world we lived in during 2020, it was well done. But either way, if you personally lost anyone during the pandemic or due to the pandemic, I don't know if this book is the best for you, because yeah, as someone who I think got through lockdown relatively unscathed, it still kind of put me in that headspace. So just be careful if you're gonna read this book. Just read it if you can handle it. If you can't handle it, then just give it a miss, because it was quite confronting about 2020. And the last book that I read this month that I finished last night is The Unworthy by Augustina Bazterrica. This book follows a woman who lives within a religious commune, we'll call it, called the Sacred Sisterhood. This sisterhood is very confined to the people that belong to it. You know, there's no outsiders, aren't like freely welcome to come in. We are in a post-apocalyptic world where there is some sort of plague or virus that is easily contaminated. So the women of the sisterhood are very, I won't say close-knit, they're very secretive, and they are very there's like a hive mindset. We have a main character who is secretly keeping a journal and just writing about the goings on at the sisterhood, especially around the time a new woman finds them and is, I guess, welcomed into their community. This book is violent, this book is graphic, and it is dark, and it is grim. And honestly, if I happened to be a part of this sisterhood, I fully, without exaggerating, would have jumped off of a bell tower, because it is just a grim book. It is a grim experience. It is a grim existence, and I felt so fucking bad for the main character. Like, it's a short book, but yeah, I don't know what to say. This book, it wasn't amazing. It was like a fine horror. It just really depressed me. And it was not, there was like a tiny sliver of hope that got snuffed out by the end. So yeah, such a fun book. That is my June wrap up. So this month was kind of a bit of a, I'll just read whatever. I am planning on reading predominantly new releases in July, because there are a bunch of new releases. I've got a Riley Sager, and Abby Jimenez, and Emily Henry. Like, I've got so many new releases from favorite authors to catch up on, so those are going to be the priority in July. But let me know what you guys have been reading. Talk to me, guys. Message me. Keep up to date. And I'll see you in my next video.